There was a time when this didn't feel normal, when being constantly alert wasn't expected, when silence didn't feel uncomfortable. That time didn't end suddenly. It faded, quietly. There is something strange about the present moment that many people struggle to name. Not because it is dramatic, but because it feels constant. A low-level tension that hums in the background of daily life. It doesn't interrupt everything. It simply stays. And because it stays, it begins to feel familiar, even when it feels wrong. What makes this difficult is not the discomfort itself, but how easily it blends in. When something becomes permanent, the mind stops questioning it. The question quietly shifts from, "Why does this feel strange?" to, "Isn't this just how things are now?" A diffuse memory of before. Many people sense that there was a time before this. Not a specific year or place, but a different internal atmosphere. A time when the mind didn't feel as occupied, when alertness came and went instead of lingering. This memory is often vague, not because it wasn't real, but because it was never documented. When something fades slowly, it rarely leaves a clear trace. There is no marker that says, "This is where it changed." And without that marker, the memory of calm begins to feel imagined, even when it wasn't. Normal is not the same as natural. One of the most powerful forces shaping human experience is repetition. What repeats becomes normal, and what becomes normal is rarely questioned. But normal does not mean natural. It simply means familiar. The body and mind are not designed to evaluate truth constantly. They are designed to adapt. So when a state repeats long enough, it is accepted, not because it is healthy, but because it is predictable. When alertness was the exception, there was a time when alertness had a clear role. It appeared when needed and receded when it wasn't. It did not follow people into rest. It did not linger in quiet moments. It did not narrate the future. Alertness was once situational. Today, it often feels ambient. And when a response meant for moments becomes a background state, something fundamental has shifted. The gradual slide. The transition into constant alertness did not happen through crisis. It happened through small adjustments. Slight increases in demand. Slight reductions in pause. Slight expectations that accumulated without resistance. Because each step felt manageable, the overall change went unnoticed. And when change is unnoticed, it is rarely questioned. Adaptation without choice. The human system adapts quickly, often faster than awareness can keep up. Muscles tighten a little. Attention sharpens slightly. Breathing changes almost imperceptibly. None of this feels dramatic enough to interrupt life. But adaptation without awareness is still adaptation. And when it becomes the baseline, returning to something else begins to feel unfamiliar. Life without closure. Modern life rarely offers clean endings. Messages don't end. Tasks don't resolve. Information doesn't settle. One thing flows directly into the next, leaving little space for completion. Without completion, the nervous system stays open. And an open loop, held long enough, becomes tension. When rest stopped being neutral, rest was once simply rest. It did not require permission. It did not need to be justified. Over time, rest became conditional, something earned rather than assumed. When rest feels conditional, the body never fully disengages. Even stillness carries a subtle sense of obligation. Silence as discomfort. Silence used to signal safety. Now, for many, it signals absence. Something missing. Something that should be filled. The quiet moment becomes uncomfortable not because it is dangerous, but because it feels unproductive. When silence becomes uneasy, the mind learns to avoid it. And avoidance reinforces alertness. Pressure without a source. What makes modern pressure difficult to confront is that it rarely has a clear author. No one explicitly demands constant readiness. No single voice insists on it. And yet, the expectation is felt everywhere. Pressure without a source is difficult to resist. Because it cannot be negotiated, it can only be absorbed. The body as baseline. Over time, the body recalibrates. Tension becomes the new zero. Calm feels like deviation, and deviation often feels unsafe. This is not because calm is harmful, but because it no longer matches the learned baseline. When a state feels like identity, after long enough, internal states begin to feel personal. This is just how I am. The line between condition and identity blurs. But states are not selves. They are responses. And responses emerge from context, not character. The normal that was learned. If the current normal was learned gradually, then it was not chosen deliberately. It was absorbed through exposure, repetition, and adaptation. And what is learned quietly often feels permanent until it is questioned. Perhaps the most unsettling realization is not that anxiety exists, but that it became normal without discussion, without agreement, without awareness. And perhaps the strange feeling many experience today is not a sign of weakness, but a signal that something human was slowly replaced with something habitual. Understanding that shift may be the first step toward remembering what existed before. If anxiety feels normal today, it may not be because it always was. It may be because it slowly replaced something else. Not through force, not through choice, but through repetition, adaptation, and time. When something stays long enough, it stops being questioned. And when it stops being questioned, it becomes invisible. Perhaps the unease many people feel today is not a flaw, but a memory of something quieter that once existed. If this resonated, you can share what felt familiar in the comments. And if you want to continue exploring what quietly became normal, consider subscribing.